If your marketing sounds polished but isn't pulling the right people in, this conversation might be for you. Today, we're talking about why so many small business brands stay invisible, even when the owner is great at what they do. Fear, vagueness, messaging, trying to sound bigger than you are, and quietly working might quietly be working against you. So, my guest, Rob Genovesi, has zero patience for jargon, templates, and playing corporate dress up. So, today we're breaking down why being better than your competitors is a trap, how ego sneaks into branding decisions, and what is actually going to take you to stand out and build real authority. So, if clarity beats clever for you, then stay with us on today's Profit with a Plan podcast. Hey, entrepreneurs, are you working too hard for too little profit? Well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we help you scale smarter, increase profitability, and build a business that's worth more, whether you keep it or you sell it. I'm Marcia Riner, business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. I've helped countless entrepreneurs to turn their businesses into highly profitable and sale-ready assets, so they enjoy more income now and a bigger payday later. So join me for practical strategies, expert insights, and proven steps to make your business more profitable, more valuable, and built to last. Today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. But before we dive in, I've got something special for you. If you're tired of flat revenue and that marketing that just doesn't seem to pay off, the new Profit Booster Growth Map might be for you. In just a few minutes, it'll show you exactly how to bring in more qualified clients and plug those profit leaks that are eating away at your cash. So get your growth map at profitbooster.biz and start turning missed revenue into real money. All right, let's jump into the show today. I know you're going to love this guy. So my guest today is Rob Genovesi. He is a brand strategist and speaker who has absolutely no patience for the corporate crap that keeps small businesses, invisible. He's the author of the book, Don't Fear the Brand, and he spends his time helping founders stop hiding behind templates and start building brands that actually attract customers. And not just customers, but the customers you want. Rob doesn't do jargon or filler. He's here to give us the blueprint on what it really takes to stand out and build authority in a crowded market. Rob, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast.
Hey, Marcia, great to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting. So I love we have just connected and we speak the same language. You've got the same mindset, and I just love talking with you. I think you add so much interesting value and viewpoints on a topic that might be missed by small business owners, I'll say. But before we get started, how did you get involved in branding and marketing?
Yeah, it's it's a story for sure, and it is all in my book. But the short version is that, I spent 25 plus years in corporate America managing creative teams. And, I have a degree in graphic design and advertising, so it served me just fine until I got really disillusioned with corporate. I wanted more control in my life. I always wanted to own my own business. And I started out just leveraging the one skill I had, which was design. So, what better thing to do than to design websites? Everybody has one or needs a new one. So, I started doing that in 2015. Really didn't have a problem getting clients, but hard to be profitable.
Mm.
And so that profitability was the problem. And so one day I had a conversation with a prospect and he threw the word brand in there. So I caught on to that. And so I started studying what that meant for a business, took a completely strategy first approach to helping him, then followed up with design. And it just flat out worked. And from then on out, I was just hooked on the impact that brand makes in a business.
Well, let's talk about that because I think branding is something that small business owners think that that's for big companies. Like we all know Coca-Cola and those and Amazon and Apple and those big names, right? But if we're just a little company or even a smaller organization just getting the momentum of business, what does a brand do except for cost a lot of money to pick right colors in a logo, right?
Yeah, so a lot of small businesses do think that brand is the big companies. Or with, the rise of social media influencers who essentially created the whole quote unquote personal branding category, where it's just a regular person who becomes famous for being themselves, then they really build a business around themselves. And so there becomes this middle ground of, well, where do I fit in as a small business? And the way they fit in as a small business is to take what is brand strategy, which essentially is this, Marcia. You've got to look at the very specific market you serve with your unique solution to solve a very unique problem. And when you do that, your differentiation comes in the way you solve that problem for that specific market. That's differentiation. And then, all the visuals and the logo that everybody thinks is a brand, they're just triggers. They're triggers for a
Mm.
brand. So when you see the Apple logo, you start getting these ruminations of, oh, the design and the functionality, and it enhances my life. But the apple itself is nothing more than a trigger. And that's where people need more clarity. They need what really is a brand, not what people think is a brand.
Interesting. Okay. So I guess what I'm thinking, you're in a small organization, right? You're striving to that multi-million dollar mark. You're already out the gate, right? You did something. You picked up the phone and you started calling prospects and clients and doing this kind of stuff. At what point do you need to really have that brand in place to be able to differentiate yourself? When really truly you're in that growth mode of saying, this is where my time is best spent, right?
Right. So, who really needs a brand or when do you really need a brand is a
Great.
great question. So, and I get that a lot because I'm the first person to say you don't need brand strategy. And I have done this before and I have turned away clients because, to be honest, I don't do a lot of startups, brand new businesses, because they don't have the answers to the questions I'm going to ask them. Like, you know,
Good point.
w- basically, we go through mission, vision, core values, your ideal client, the messaging that's going to attract them, and all that. And if you don't really even know who your ideal client is, if you need to have a year or two under your belt of building the business, and find your way so you've got some specifics in hand. So I had a guy call me up one time and Marcia, he was insisting on handing over thousands of dollars for me to help him because he thought I need a brand. In
Someone
actuality,
told him, right? Some cocktail waitress or,
probably.
somebody non-important told him he needed a brand.
Well, look, you go online, and whereas back, 30 years ago, you didn't hear the word brand except for Coca-Cola and Pepsi and, all those. But nowadays, everybody who owns a small business says, this is my brand. So you think you have to have one. And yes, you do. But this guy needed sales first. He didn't even have regular revenue, Marcia. He didn't have a business actually to brand. So I said, listen, man, I said, go get regular monthly revenue in about a year, because I think you'll probably be there in a year. Call me back because when you need branding is when you're going and your marketing is not working and you need to go to the next level. Branding can help you absolutely get to a whole nother level rather than just sell, sell, sell.
And I think that's what the audience needs to hear because they do hear that, oh, you need to have a brand before you can do your marketing. And I'm thinking, no, you want to do marketing so you can get the clients so you can understand what you mean and do because there's a lot of fluffy stuff behind the brand, right? Your vision, your mission. Oh, what do I feel? What I want the customer to feel, And sometimes the flip side happens where you're thinking, that's unnecessary stuff. I'm just going to keep calling people, right?
Yeah. So, when I talk about mission, vision, values, and if you talk to 10 different brand strategists, you'll get some nuances because the truth of the matter is this with brand strategy. Brand strategy is science and brand strategy is an art. There's a
Hmm.
science part that comes first, and then there's the art of building a strong brand that attracts. I talk about the art because few people are. You've got to connect the two. And where I say mission, vision, values, they're more for internal purposes. They're more for you as the business owner to understand who exactly are you? Who are you in your business? What exactly is your business? Where is it going? That's the vision. What's its purpose? What drives it? That's the mission. What are the core values? What's the culture of how you're conducting yourself in your business? Because if you don't know who you are, how could you ever brand something when you don't even know what it is? So I do that foundational work first. And then we
Mm.
get to the stuff that really matters in terms of brand, which is who are you talking to, your ideal client, and how are you talking to them? Because the fact of the matter is this, Marcia, when you know who you're talking to, you know how to talk to them so that you can connect with them and attract them to you.
Exactly. I bump into this all the time because I'll go to clients and I'm building some marketing stuff for them because I'm a growth agency. Marketing is part of growth. And, I'm asking them these questions and they don't know the answers.
Mm.
They're unclear. And I think to myself now, after hearing you, that that's the perfect time for them to get that clarity so that they can actually dial in their conversation that they have going out. But like you said, in early times, I mean, you're better to get the clients and figure out what you're doing first, right? And that sometimes takes a couple of years to get going. But
Well, let
once
me,
you get that momentum going and you're trying to strive to that next multi-million dollar mark, maybe you're hitting your first million, or you're hitting your first 500,000, or you're hitting your first 5 million. It's different for different companies, but I think correct me if that's not the time that you're going to want to dial this in.
Well, yeah, because like we said, you want to be able to discover who you are first and who you're serving. Because, we're talking about, you do infinite profit, profit booster. You're all about the profit. And honestly, that's what I was focused on. I wasn't so much focused on revenue, pure revenue, or how many clients or how much that client's paying. Because to be honest, when I first started out, I was making $50 an hour my effective hourly rate. And I was like, man, so I would ramp up the fee. But when I ramped up the fee, I didn't just ramp it up. I ramped up the value that I put inside it. And I don't do websites anymore. But back then when I was doing websites, the profitability was so thin that when you know, I went from charging like $400 for a website, and then I was charging, $4,000 for a website. I was
Trading time
making
for
less per
money.
hour. I was making less per hour because my time input was off the charts, Marcia. So,
Yeah.
you've got to figure the business part out and forget so much about the brand. And look, like I said, when you want to be able to go to the next level, the brand is going to help you. And
Mm.
here's the takeaway. The takeaway is this, and this is my personal experience. I am not even speaking from theory here. My personal experience in building my companies, in building my brand, I built the business, but then when I understood brand and I had my brand on lockdown, here's what happens. When you have a true brand, the brand is the lens through which you make all the business decisions because it will provide a clarity that you didn't have before. So you could effectively you can go farther faster. You can spend less marketing dollars and get more revenue. You can get more profit because you can move swiftly and you can move with clarity. And the clarity is the key.
I agree 1,000%. I think it also does something that I going through your book and reviewing these kind of things, it also something triggered me. When the brand will help you attract the clients you want, and it will also repel the clients that you don't want because it's matching who you are and what you like to do and how you do it, right?
Yeah, so I mean, this is one of the biggest reasons that I had to write the book. I came from a very fearful place. I mean, I was a frightened adult in my 30s. And when I say frightened, I wasn't just scared of success or scared of failure. I'm not talking about that. I was afraid to talk to people. I
Mm.
was afraid to put myself out there. I was afraid to charge money for what I did. I was afraid of everything. And so the fear that people have is what stops them from the success they would otherwise have. So when we talk about, um, building a brand, it requires you to be able to fear not having some people like you. To your point. I mean, look, everybody wants all the love and they want the admiration and you're awesome. That does not come without the people who go, you're trash, you're lying, you're a hack, you're all this. You're going to get both sides, and people fear the negativity and the haters, so they never truly put a line in the sand and cross over and go, here's where I stand. Here's what I will not tolerate. Here's the people I help, and all the rest of you can go take a
Pound
leap.
sand.
Pound sand.
Pound sand. So I think that that's really important. It's a really important thing because we know that when you're a younger company, you're shooting pellets at a wall, you're throwing spaghetti up there, you're trying to see what sticks. You come from this fearful space of, I don't want to say the wrong thing because I don't want to push someone away. I can help everybody with everything, right? And I always use this typical line that I got from a dentist years ago that, hey, if you got teeth, I can help you. And I'm like, no, that's not true, right? I mean, you're being a very generalist, and I think people fear that, so they don't want to take a stand, or they don't want to take a side, and they don't want to say, "Oh, I help this person," rather than, "Oh, I help everybody."
Right. Well, you know what people are facing, if you're a small business owner and you're speaking in general terms like the dentist, then what you're facing is not competition from the people who do what you do. You're
Mm,
facing competition from inaction,
mm,
because we have a lot of choice in today's world. And
absolutely.
especially, I'm from the tri-state area. I live in the suburbs of New York, about 20 minutes outside of Manhattan. So there's a choice for every single person that I need in my life. So if I look at six different people who do the same thing and they all go, I can help you, and they're very general, I don't know who to choose. So the mind needs a way to cut through that and make a decision. And when in doubt, the brain will choose to do nothing, right? It preserves
Mm.
its energy, it preserves its power. And so they do nothing, right? Because nothing is the easiest path when indecision is facing us and there's no discernible solution ahead of you. So, what is the solution? It is branding, it is differentiation, because when you can help everybody, then I go, well, I can hire anybody. And that's a pricing game. And that's a whole nother talk. But
That's the race to who's the lowest price, right? For what I'm going to get.
right, and that's your world. We're talking about profitability here. So if you're just going to discount your prices so you can get the client, but you're not making money, well,
Mm.
it's pointless. So if you've got 10 dentists line up, and they're all like, "You've got teeth, I can clean them." Okay, great. But what if one of them is like, "I'll give you a smile that will light up the entire room every time you walk in, and people will wonder how you got such beautiful teeth." Something to that nature that
Sure.
speaks to, oh, I'm not just going to have clean teeth. I'm going to have $1 million smile that's going to help me close deals because people will look at me differently. It's
Exactly.
that kind of differentiation that helps the brain go, the different person is the choice that I want to make.
Hey, quick pause here. If you've ever wondered what your next smartest move should be to grow your business, well, I've built something for you. It's called the Profit Booster Growth Map. It takes only about 2 minutes, it's totally free, and it shows you exactly where you're leaving money on the table and what to fix first. Go grab it for free at profitbooster.biz/growth map. Then come right back to the
I want to
episode.
make.
So, Rob, you're giving me really good insights on this right here. And I think that the thing I want to clarify for the audience, when we're talking brand, we're not talking a shiny logo and a catch tag. We're actually talking about the messaging that you say and how you say it and delivering it so that these people can find you and choose you over the guy standing next to you.
Yeah, and what brand actually is, and to clarify your point about the visuals, look, I'm a formerly trained graphic designer. It's what I went to school to do. It's the thing that I loved. I will tell you, the words come first. The strategy comes first. The design is last. And in fact, you can actually have a brand and not even have a logo. Oh my gosh, what did I just say? Like, people, graphic
From a
designers,
designer?
I'm a designer. Graphic designers sometimes don't like me because I say things like that. But the fact is this, I'm helping them because they all need to be more strategic with the design so that the logo enhances oh, here's the bottom line, Marcia. When you've strategized your brand, when you've utilized brand strategy and you have it written down, you follow up with a design, the logo is nothing more than a visual trigger for the thing that you're known for. That's all it is. It's a trigger. Color's a trigger, visuals are a trigger.
And I think if you do it properly, and maybe I'll use myself here a little bit, when I did my Infinite Profit, I mean, this was my third iteration of the company name. And the second and the most recent one was because someone rolled into a town with a similar name and wouldn't back down, which was very disheartening. But it's like I was trying to think what's the feeling behind it, right? What is my value? What is the ultimate result that my clients get by working with me? And I think I went through something similar, but obviously not to the extent that I think you take your clients through. But I wanted that name to have that impact of the result, right? And then the infinity symbol was fun to
Mm-hmm.
to play with and have a lot of angles and directions and things that we could do. Not that mine is perfection on any level, but that was my intention behind it, was to give them kind of a feeling of what you could do when working with me.
Right. So that trigger, and here's where I think the through line that people have to understand. If you're running a business, it's largely a messaging problem.
Mm.
And look, even when I started out, I was like, what the heck is messaging? Like, I didn't even really know what it was. It sounds like this jargonish thing. And I had a hard time comprehending because I'm a very visual person and it is very much verbally based, if you will, words based. And messaging is this: when you know, like I said, who you're talking to, your ideal client, the messaging is the words, the phrases you use that make them take notice. You get their attention and they do one thing. They're exposed to it and they go, "There for me." They get me. And it's through the messaging that they get that feeling. And so when you have that messaging down pat, now you should have an overarching message for your audience. That way you are properly niched down so they feel like you are speaking to them. And niching is a whole
Mm.
nother topic, I realize. But when you talk about infinite profit and you talk about profit, you know, I'm sure you can help businesses um, just purely do massive revenue. But when you talk about profit, you're very specific in what you're doing for businesses because there are people who go, our company does $5 million a year
But you're
and we got
probably spending 4.5 to get there.
$50,000 in profit, right? So what's the flex there? There's no flex. If you're not profitable, you're going out of business. So then you won't have anything to talk about anyway. But when you
Exactly.
hammer that message, Marcia, so you hammer profit, build profit, boost profit, infinite profit. Well, guess what? If somebody's like, man, our company's doing well, but we're not making any money, we got to call Marcia. We got to call Infinite Booster, right? So you become the go-to person in their mind. Why? Because you own the profit space, and businesses need to own a message so that they become a splinter in people's minds when it's time to make a move.
I love it. It really does. I mean, thank you for shining on mine. But I think that that's really important. And when you're talking about it, like I consult with people all the time that, they're looking at, I believe that when you build a business from day one, you should know how you're going to exit that business as well, right? So like coming up and say Marcia and Sons, right?
Right.
As the name of my company is something I can't sell at the end. So it's the same thing with
Yeah.
that branding. What are you building and how long will it last? And what are your intentions and goals with this company? And I think it all comes down to the way that you build the image of the company, right? And the look, the sound, the feel, the results that the audience, your ideal client is going to get, right? And I think that that's super important, and it is all done by branding subconsciously.
Yeah. So you said something very key there that unfortunately most people will never reconcile with long term. Branding is a long game.
It
Now,
is.
my experience is, when I So I had my first company, which when you talk about, Marcia and Sons or whatever, naming your company after yourself is,
That's
in
the
my
worst thing
opinion,
you could do.
is one of the worst things you could do, right? So in the beginning, my business had my name in it and it said something very generic. And I had a business, but I didn't have a brand. And that's when I realized, my gosh, I'm struggling for profitability because I'm so generic, so mainstream, so polished, and it's not really who I am. But when I ran myself through the brand strategy process that I developed, by the way, learning from some of the greats in the world, out the other side came who I really am, how I really approach it, my thoughts and my philosophy around building a profitable business and a strong brand came out. And I 4X'd my revenue along with my profit in just a matter of months after launching the real brand that I had. I had to rip everything down. So you can do it fast. But that being said, an early leap that I made.
Yeah,
But
but an
long
important one.
term, build your brand over time so
Mm,
that over time, your brand will build your business for you. And
yeah.
that's the thing. It's a long term thing because you were right. You don't want to make short term decisions that just sound good. They have to make sense in the long run.
This is so important, and I love your example of how you were able to leap at a certain phase in your business because you did the work, right? You
Yeah.
set up the framing and you made yourself visible, A, to your ideal client, but then you also said and did the right things that brought them in. So we're not saying, oh, if you just build a brand, they're going to come,
No.
right? Wrong. Like miles wrong, but it is part of it that when you're in that slew of however many people show up on the Google name or on the Google list, or God, remember the phone book, right? You
Yeah.
used to go back through the phone book and find people, right? You're looking for something that is going to attract you and repel other people. And if you do it right and you rebrand and fix that, which is always possible, then you're attracting the people that want to work with you. And then you're not coming in going, well, I'm the lowest, cheapest, and can do it the fastest for you. I'm maybe the not quite the highest, but I'm in a higher caliber. I deliver what you're needing and I deliver it in a way that you want it. They're going to pay the money.
Yeah. So if you want to really attract people to you, and let's just, assume you've gone through the brand strategy process. What you come out with on the other side as an individual, as the person driving the business, is a clarity and a confidence that allows you to show up in networking events or wherever, online, doesn't really matter, and get your message across in a clear and confident way so that people go, man, I like what she has to say. I want to learn more about her. And they enter your world.
Yeah.
They follow you on LinkedIn. They go to your website. They sign up for your email list, and they get your philosophy, your approach coming at them all the time because they like it. It makes sense to them. And as long as, look, this is all assuming you're good. If you're not good, go get skills, man. You got to go get the skills. But if you're
Well,
good,
and this doesn't always apply to those that are in like urgent need, like I need like HVAC, my heater shut off, it's snowing, I need you now, right? They're
right.
looking for who can get out there the fastest, right? But for the rest of us in business that don't have immediate buying triggers, they're shopping and they're looking and they're trying to find that connection like you just brought out.
Yes. So what you're doing so let's just be clear. So branding is the strategy. You create the brand. Marketing is the amplification of your brand. So
Yes.
when you see me on LinkedIn and you see my content and all that, that's the amplification of my brand. I'm not building my brand there. My brand is built in everything I do, but it's
Mm,
amplified there. So what happens is people follow along for a period of time because most people don't make knee-jerk decisions regarding
mhm.
business, right? To hire somebody, spend thousands of dollars. So what they do is they follow along for a while, and here's where branding just absolutely shines.
Mm,
A person who is entering the buying mode, right? Because we don't know when people are going to buy. You can't
right.
time the stock market. You can't time when somebody's going to buy. You just have to be there when they make the decision. And here's what happens. People wrestle with the pain in their business, the pain in their life for months on end. until one day they're laying in bed at 10 o'clock at night. They're with their spouse and they're about to go to sleep. And they go, I can't take it anymore. I've got to get this solved. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling. And if your name doesn't pop up in their head, you lost. But branding embeds itself, it burns itself in people's brains so that in the quiets of their mind, when they decide to make a decision and they're not online and they're not being pitched, your name comes to the top because you made an impression on them that lasted. And that is the
Mm.
beauty of getting the person to buy when they are ready. And when they come to you, they're already sold.
That is fantastic description of how a brand plays and impacts the buying decision because we all know years ago used to be they had to see you 7 or 10 times before they made a decision. Now with the onslaught of social and marketing and just like the phones and we're hit thousands of times, they need to see you 20 to 30 times before that cements into them. That's marketing amplification, as you described, of that brand that you built that is narrowing you down to just a few. When it comes to that decision, I promise you, you're probably not the only one on their mind, but they're between you and somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be in the top two or three?
Yeah, for
Heck
sure.
yeah. Absolutely. So, Rob, this is fantastic. I love this conversation because it's so important and it's a fresh way of looking at branding that's not your logo and your tagline and the graphics that you use and all the stuff that really doesn't matter anymore today, right? It's the meat and potatoes of what's behind the brand and how it actually impacts the buying decision that your buyers are making, right? And you want to
Yeah,
be in that top two or three when they're making that decision. So,
100%.
where can listeners find out more about you? Go get your book, and just really start looking and making 2026 the time where they're going to shift and take off.
So yeah, so for your listeners, I have a gift. So I did, release my book, Don't Fear the Brand, The Art of Building a Strong Brand That Attracts, last year in December, just a few months ago. And it is available on Amazon, but I'm going to give it to your listeners for free. If they go to buildstrongbrands.com/free book, all one word, free book, they'll get a digital download of the book. And it's going to make a big impact. And the reason I wrote it was not just because I wanted to call myself an author. It's my first book. I'm not an author per se, but the message that's in here helped me so much. I felt like I had to share it because nobody, Marcia, is talking about the fear that is stopping grown people from making decisions that would change their life for the better.
I love it. And it's a great book. I have a copy myself sitting right here. It's a great book. It's really impactful. Yes, it's story driven, which will help it make it easier to read and be more enjoyable. But I think the thought behind it and the experiences that you went through and why these things got in the way are perfect lessons for someone to read. And it's a quick read. It's an easy read to follow along with. So I encourage listeners to go get that again. And what's the link again? One more time.
It's buildstrongbrands.com/free book, all one word. And of
Awesome.
course, you could always find me on LinkedIn. That's where I spend every morning. I'm there for a couple of hours in the morning and throughout the day. If you want to DM me or just follow my content, you could always reach. That's where you can communicate and find all my good stuff there.
Love it. Well, we love LinkedIn. It's a really impactful place for businesses. So I
Yeah.
like it. Well,
Yeah.
wow. All right, listeners, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you picked up some valuable insights and actionable ideas that'll help you make your business more profitable. And I know that aligning your brand and the the way that Rob described the brand, not updating your logo, but really getting that dialed in messaging and understanding who you are, and what you deliver and the results that you deliver is going to make such a headway for you in this year to turn that business direction positive for you so you can make more profit, right? All right. Before you go, if you're ready to bring in more of the right clients and keep more of what you earn, then go grab my free Profit Booster Growth Map. It's a GPT I created. It gives you a really great insight on 3 top moves that will grow your revenue and stop those profit leaks fast. You can get it for free. There's no sales pitch behind it. It's just a really valuable report that comes out. You can go get it at profitbooster.biz. And don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss future shows. You can always find Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players. We're looking forward to more great profitable strategies on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you for having me, Marcia.